guys, welcome back to another tutorial for you. You guys have been loving the tips and tricks and more instructional videos here in IGTV. So I'm going to create one for you today on hooded eyes. These are the tips that I have, more like don'ts and do's or do's and don'ts for hooded eyes. It doesn't get any more basic than this. All actionable things that you can do if you have a hooded eye and struggle with your eyeshadow looking great. So the first thing I think I'm going to tell you is stop comparing. Don't go to YouTube, Instagram, somewhere and look at an eyeshadow look, try it, and then think, well, I can't do eyeshadow because it doesn't look like hers. Everyone's eye shape is different, but every eye shape is beautiful. So a hooded eye is not something that you should think about like having as like a disability in the makeup world. It's not. It is just a different eye shape. You have to make some slight adjustments and then you can go ahead and have a beautiful eyeshadow look. So stop comparing. Start using some of my tips and tricks and I promise you, your eyeshadow is gonna look great. So let's get into some do's and don'ts. Okay, first tip is not even to do with eyeshadow, it's to do with brows. Don't skip the brows. We always say that the brows are the curtains of our eyeshadow look, kind of like the window treatment. It's the icing on the cake to create a finished look. But how you fill them really matters when you have a hooded eye. So let's dive in really quickly to what a hooded eye is. Now I can show you these tips and tricks because I have a kind of a hooded eye. It is not the most hooded of hooded eyes, but let's go ahead and just look at the anatomy of the eye. I'm going to go ahead and just relax my face and see this flap of skin. The brow bone kind of is here, but there's this flap of skin and see that kind of pocket there. That's your crease. So you can see that my lid comes over that crease and a portion of my lid is kind of hidden. Now, hooded eyes can be, you know, worse or better. Mine isn't the worst of hooded eyes, but as I get older, the skin is loosening and it is sagging over the lid. So if I were to take my color and go into this crease when I open my eye and relax it, you're not gonna see the work. Do you know what I'm saying? So that is exactly what a hooded eye is. So look at your mirror, relax your eyes, and look at the way that this is hanging over your lid. And that's a good determination on whether you have a hooded eye or not. Hooded eyes can tend to make you look a little more tired, and the purpose of eyeshadow is to make you look lifted and awake. So these tips are gonna help you. So we're gonna start with brows, like I said. We're gonna fill our brows with one of the colors we're gonna use for today's eyeshadow look. This isn't so much a focus on the color, it's a focus on the technique. But this is Trust Eyeshadow by Maskcara Beauty, and I'm gonna be using a brow brush. This is a hot line brush, also by Maskcara. So when we're filling our brows, and how it affects our eyeshadow is this. So I'm just gonna kind of comb them through. They're a little grown out, but that's okay. I'm just gonna go in like I normally do. Forgive me for watching my work and not looking in the lens, but I wanna make sure I show you. So I'm gonna come into the natural line of my brow. How you fill your brows is kind of your preference until you get to this point, and then I'm gonna tell you what you should be doing. So I'm just gonna pick up a tiny more product and then show you. I am not going to go outside of the brow. Unless your tail is super duper short, don't go outside of it. If it is short and you need to extend it, because the rule of brows is that it should come here, mine comes just shy of that. Watch where I point the line. I'm a little crazy. You are gonna go out towards the temple, not down towards your ear or down like it's a rainbow. Out towards your temple, because what that's going to do, think of like a straight line, you're going to be grabbing it from this direction. It's going to lift your eye. So don't fill your brows down like a rainbow, out like a line, out towards your temple. So I'll just fill the other one really quick. I don't overfill my brows, but you know, how you do your brows is kind of your preference. And if you're happy with the way you're doing them, that's great. Just don't pull, if you have a hooded eye, don't pull it down like a rainbow. Pull it out towards your temple, out here. It's so important. Okay, hot tip number 2. Do not skip primer. Now you can prime in 2 ways. You can use your foundation or you can use an actual eyeshadow primer. I prefer an eyeshadow primer. If you need some recommendations on really good ones, I can help you. Don't skip the primer. The reason for primer, especially with hooded eyes, is that it helps your eyeshadow stick. It allows you to get more color payoff. And, you know, in our case with a hooded eye, you need your eyeshadow to stick to where you put it. So the tip with primer is don't skip it and set it. So I'm just gonna blend this out. Now, if we don't set our primer, what's gonna happen is it's going to crease. So you can either do this two ways. You can do this with a translucent setting powder, or you can do it with a very light colored shadow, which is what I'm gonna do. This is called Cupcake by Maskcara Beauty, and I'm just going to set down my concealer and or foundation. So you're creating a nice clean canvas. It's not gonna crease on you, which is overall gonna help the end result look, and you're canceling out any discoloration. So that is that tip. Don't skip primer of any kind. Prime the way that you find is best, but don't skip it, and please make sure that you set it down so you don't get any creasing. Okay, next tip is transition color. Do not place your transition color in the crease. What is it going to do? It's going to help. It's going to not help. It's going to close off your eye, and when you open your eye, you're not gonna see it. This is probably the biggest struggle with hooded eyeshadow. So if I were to take my color, this is called Basic, and I was gonna go into the crease here with it, when I open my eye, that is not gonna be there. So instead, and I'm gonna post a graphic right after this tip, you'll be able to see what I'm saying. You're going to go above. We're essentially creating your own crease. So I'm gonna use my brush here, and I'm not going to go into the crease right here. I'm gonna go above it. So just move your hand placement on your brush and go above it. So I'm just gonna kind of tap it in. Now I have kind of a wiggly eyelid. As I get older, I'm 38, I'm finding that tapping my products where I need it to be and not sweeping and swirling is what's gonna help me. So try with try different things with what works for you and your skin and the shape of your eye and the degree of hoodedness you might have. Now I am gonna slightly kind of swirl here and kind of blend up. Again, apologies for using it as a mirror, but this is what we're doing. Okay, so that's my transition color. See how it's opened up my eye? So again, don't go into the crease, move your brush, go above. Now, the natural shape of the brush is going to lay some product into that crease. See how it's kind of hitting the crease? But it's hitting above the crease. So just move your brush up towards the tail of your brow a little bit, and it will help you. I'm just gonna blend this in and kind of stamp it in. Your transition color should be a matte tone. It should be a couple shades darker than your natural skin tone. You don't want a heavy crease color because heavy crease colors can tend to make, especially a hooded eye, look more closed. Light and bright, think about that. Because the whole purpose of this is to make sure that your shadow looks kind of, your eye looks lifted and brightened. Okay, and here's a good tip for the inner corner. So a lot of times you watch those YouTube girls and they bring their transition color all the way in here, right? And they're kind of blending it that way. Don't do that. With a hooded eye, you want to keep that section really bright because it's your most open section of your eye. So you want to kind of bring this color, think about blending in like a straight line. Bring it in here so you're kind of coming up towards your brow a little bit, but you're not coming down into the corner of the eye. So again, just kind of blend into a straight line. Hold the brush back here and just blend into a straight line. Even on the outer corner, blend into a straight line because it's gonna create that lift versus that downward droop. That's the shape you really want to avoid. If you think about shapes, you want to avoid that, rainbow downward turn shape because your lids are actually already kind of downward turn with a hooded eye, so you want to change that shape, right? So we're just gonna add a little more over here so I can see what I'm doing. So think about that straight line when blending out that crease color. Okay, now we've talked about the light and the bright part, or some of the light and bright part. There's more of that coming. We're gonna talk about the darkness. With eyeshadow, especially with hooded eyes, your darkest colors should be on the outer corners of the eye. So if you think about your eyes in thirds, it should be dark, a little bit less dark, bright. So we're gonna use Trust. This is the same color I used for my brows, so it's a really good, useful color. And we're just gonna keep this to the outer corner, period. We're not going any further. Now you can use either side of the brush for this. It's what you know, what you like. But the importance of going a little bit above is really where it's gonna be at for you with a hooded eye, because we're gonna have to carry that color up. Now normally I say don't turn, don't pull your eye, but I'm gonna do it so you all can see what I'm doing. I'm going outside of the crease with the darker color slightly. Then we're going to blend it out in small circular motions. Now the circular motions are what's gonna help you stay in the natural shape of your eye, so you're not gonna have any crazy lines. Now I'm gonna pull mine a little bit into the crease and out. So just blend, small little blends, and you have your darker color. And you can see it when my eye is open. You can see it's a little above, and there you go. I'm gonna do the other eye. Okay, so while we're talking about the darker colors, let's talk about the lower lash line for a little bit. With a hooded eye, it is important to keep the darker colors to the outer corner. Again, because we're keeping the center of the eye, the more lifted part of the eye, the brighter part of the eye, brighter. So when you're using your outer corner color, remember my little trick here. Run your finger up the brush, come down here. I'm just using what's left on my brush, and I'm gonna run it under the outer corner only. Especially with eyeliners and dark colors, keep those colors to the outer corner of the eye. If you want a waterline liner, stick with a white or a nude liner. It's going to help open your eye up and look brighter. So I'm just taking what's left on my brush. I didn't reload. And I'm keeping that to the outer corner of my eye. Simple, simple, simple. No thick liner. Now I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm gonna mean it. No thick liner. If you like the thick winged look, it's not gonna be so much for you with a hooded eye. You have to find a different way to do that thicker line, that winged liner. When you're doing a wing liner, I'm not gonna do it today, just stay very close to the lash line with your liquid liner, and when you come out to do the wing, you're going to come out further than you would normally go, because again, everything with a hooded eye you have to do either higher or further out, because you are creating a new shape of your eye. So no thick liner. I prefer using an eyeshadow for my ladies with hooded eyes, and I'm going to run it in the lash line. And then we'll do our lighter and brighter color. So I'm just gonna run it into the lashes. This is the same color that I used on my brows and on my outer corner, that Trust color. It's a really beautiful color. For liner, for brows, for eyeshadow, it's just one of my favorites. So I just ran it into the lash line. When you're using liner, all you're doing is creating a thicker lash line. The thicker your liner is, the more small and closed off your eye is going to be. So again, keeping it, if you want to use a dark liner on the outer corner of your eyes and the lower lash line, that's 100% fine. In your waterline, keep it to the outer corner. Okay, let's talk about shimmer and that highlight color. This is Unicorn. It's a kind of white silvery shimmer. This is what we're going to be using. I'm going to be placing it on the inner portion of my eye. I'm going to put it on my finger. You can use a brush if you want to, but I'm just going to put it on my finger, and I'm going to tap it where I want that brightness. You might think, and this is a misconception, that you cannot wear shimmer if you have a mature lid or you have a hooded eye. That's not the case. I repeat, if you are over a certain age and you think you can't wear shimmer, that is not right. You can wear shimmer, you absolutely can, you just need to place it correctly, and I'm gonna show you how to use it effectively. So I've placed a little shimmer there, a little brightness. Now notice it's not a disco ball. I didn't go crazy. I'm gonna show you kind of pull my lid a little. You all know I don't like doing it, but I do it. And I'm gonna kind of tap it in, and I have my brightness there. Run my brush over, make sure everything's blended, no harsh edges. Okay, now I'm gonna talk to you about the brow bone highlight. Okay, I'm gonna use the same color here, but there is a very big difference in how you highlight your brow bone with a hooded eye and not with a hooded eye. So if you watch YouTube girls or Instagram or anybody that doesn't have a hooded eye, they will run their brow bone highlight all up under here. That is a mistake, especially with a hooded eye. When you're putting brightness, you're putting things where you want the attention to be. So for us, with a hooded eye, we want the highest point of our brow to be where we're seeing the lift, correct? Yes. So I'm just gonna take a tiny bit of that highlight color and gonna place it right on the outer corner of my brow, just where that arch is, and it's gonna create a lift. Now you can do this with a matte shade. You don't have to do a shimmer as long as it's a light shade. So I'm just gonna place it here and not all up in here. It's not where we want our shimmer. We want it to create a nice lift on our eye, and then always think about that inner corner. You can definitely highlight the inner corner and keep it nice and bright right there, because this again is our most open portion of our eye. So adding a little brightness there isn't gonna hurt you. Look how beautiful it is. Do not skip shimmers. They are your friend, despite what age you are. Okay, I have a mascara tip for you. I'm about to do my mascara. Mascara is your personal preference. Whichever one you like or whichever one works for you is fine. There's no better or worse one for hooded eyes. I have no tip for you, but what I do have for you is to not skip lower lash line mascara. So make sure that you're using your lower lash line mascara. People think that they don't have to do that, or it's a step you can skip, but what it does is it creates a more, again, open eye look. So always do your lower lash line. Okay, now that we have our lower lash line mascara, see how much brighter and more open and lifted, especially on those outer corners, looks. It's so pretty. The very last tip I have for you is do not skip under eyes concealer. I know that a lot of people are fearful of concealers because they have texture under their eyes, but what that does is gives you more brightness, more lift, all the good things, and it cleans up your eyeshadow. So I'm gonna show you the best way, I think, for applying the under eye concealer in a way that isn't gonna emphasize texture. So I'm gonna use my Maskcara Beauty palette. I'm gonna use this color, it's called White Peach. And I'm gonna use the Detail Hack brush. If you have a brush that has a small end like this, that's fine. They do make concealer brushes. You can even use your finger. So I'm gonna go ahead and just tap a tiny bit, and I'm gonna come, now, rule of thumb with all makeup is wherever you place your brush down first is where you're gonna have the most concentration of product. So I don't want that under my eye where I have a bag here, texture here, I don't want that. So I'm gonna come down towards the center of my nose. You've seen me do this before, and I'm gonna then blend up. And then we'll see what this does. Now, if you have to redip, that's fine. I tend to be conservative, but watch what I do here. I'm going to create a line towards the tail of my brow. And it's going to brighten that outer corner. And you'll notice I'm building the product up. I'm not going in hard with a bunch and then, you know, having to move it around. I apologize if you can hear my son's tablet. Okay, see the difference between this eye and this eye. Now, important with thin concealer is make sure you have a sponge handy, barely damp at all, and just kind of press it into the eye so that way you're not seeing any creasing. We're gonna set that under eye, but look at the difference between here and here. You're gonna see a lot more lift, a lot more brightness. It looks, you know, nice and happy. So we're gonna do the same thing here. Picking up a bit of product, coming down at the center of the nose, and then coming up. Now this is something that can change with the shape of each person's eye and or their age, skin type. You don't have to be a certain age to have mature skin. It really is more about the condition of the skin versus the age. So again, just flicking up towards the brow and coming down here and blending this in. A light hand is super important. Make sure you get the side of your nose. It's gonna make your nose appear a little bit thinner. Pressing it in, and you're done. That is it. Those are my do's and don'ts for hooded eyeshadow. Simple steps that you can take to kind of level up your eyeshadow, but I think the most important thing that I taught you today was at the very beginning of this video is stop comparing yourself to those that you see on the internet. Your eyeshadow technique is not gonna be what their eyeshadow technique is. Your eye shape is not their eye shape. So you can certainly look for someone who has a similar eye shape than you have, and then you can certainly follow their steps. But these are some actionable things that you can do with your eyeshadow to help you get the look that you want. And I hope it was helpful for you. Please leave in the comments if you have any questions or concerns, or if this was helpful for you. Your feedback really helps me create better content for you. You seem to like the tips and tricks videos, so I'm gonna do my very best to post them every Tuesday for you. And I will see you next week. Thanks again for watching, guys. Take care.